Sounds so nice.
As much as I love seeing you all on Zoom, I can't wait till we can meet in person again.
Hey, when do we think that'll happen? Anybody know?
We're actually trying to work out the details. We're trying to shoot for hopefully in June, but that depends again on CDC guidelines.
Now, is it June or July? Let's see, we're dark in what, August? Is it July or August we're dark?
That would be Jeff. Do you know?
Yeah, it'll be up to the commission. I mean, you know, over the years, sometimes we've been dark in August, sometimes we've had meetings. It all depends on what is, you know, in the queue.
Oh,
Am I set to chair in the June meeting or the July meeting?
That would be
July.
July takes place. Yeah.
So Terry takes June, I take July.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll have to meet at a local establishment to pass the torch, Terry.
All right, so I have 7 o'clock. If the chair would like to start.
Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call to order the Planning Commission meeting for the City of Glendora for Tuesday, May 24th, 2021. We'll start this meeting at 7 o'clock. For the audience tonight, I am the chair, Terry Kent, and serve as the presiding officer over tonight's meeting. Before we move forward, I'd like to announce that in response to executive order issued by Governor Newsom, the city is conducting teleconference public meetings utilizing Zoom video communication. This allows the city to continue to conduct essential business and comply with Public Health Administration recommendations to protect the public and city employees, practice social distancing, and limit exposure by not allowing in-person public meetings. To ensure that the public will be able to participate in public comment, they can be submitted as live comments during Zoom meetings and via email at publiccomment@cityofglendora.org. We'll take a roll call. Will the Madam Clerk, will you please conduct a roll call?
Thank you, Chair. At this time, I'll conduct an oral roll call and request that each commissioner respond with present when their name is called. Commissioner Kiosk.
present.
Commissioner Matthews.
Present.
Commissioner Norwood.
Present.
Vice Chair Davis.
Present.
Chair Kent.
Present.
Notice that everyone's present.
All the commissioners present. We'll go to the Pledge of Allegiance. I will start the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, for liberty and justice for all. Okay, that will take us to reorder the agenda. Does anyone wish to reorder the agenda? Hearing none, I'll move on to public comment. This is the public comment to receive prior to sorry about that. We'll open the public comment. I invite members of the public to address the Planning Commission on items listed on the agenda. Announce the speakers are limited to 3 minutes, speaking once on both on and off agenda items. This is your time to speak uninterrupted. Please address your comments to me, the presiding officer. Public comment is limited to a total of 30 minutes. If you would like to request to speak, select the raise hand icon on the Zoom before the close of public comment period. You will then be called on when your turn is up to speak. Has any public comments been received?
Yes, we received one correspondence, has been received and made part of the record, distributed to the commission and made available to the public and incorporated in the agenda and an agenda packet. Right now, I do not see anyone in the Zoom, as well as we have not received any live emails. So there's no one else wishing to speak.
Okay. Okay, so we have none, so we can move on. And you said we have nobody in the Zoom waiting room?
Correct.
Okay, then I'll close public comment period. And do we have any commissioner statement or reports? Any commissioners have any statements or reports to make tonight?
No.
No, I don't.
No, sir.
Hearing none, we'll move on. Director, City Attorney, invite the Development Director, Jeff Kugel, to provide a statement. Mr. Kugel, do you have anything?
I don't have anything tonight.
Our City Attorney Lehman, do you have anything to present?
None for me.
Okay, thank you. Special items, I see none on our agenda, so we'll move on to public hearings. We will move, there are no public hearings, so we'll move on to consent calendar. Everyone's gotten a copy of the consent, I'm sorry. We'll request a motion and a second on this. Recording administrators, do you have any, what do we have on consent calendar? Let's see.
Do I have a motion?
We have two sets of minutes on the consent calendar. I would recommend that if you were absent for the meeting for which the minutes are proposed to be approved, that you would just abstain from that particular date of minutes that you approved. Otherwise, you can vote on the consent calendar. Just make that statement for the city clerk's record.
I will be abstaining from the April meeting minutes.
And I will be abstaining from the March 2nd meeting minutes.
Chairman Kent will abstain from April 6 minutes.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
A motion made by Commissioner
Matthews.
Matthews, second by, what was it, Commissioner Cross?
Yes.
So I'm going to call for an oral call. Commissioner Cross,
Yes.
Commissioner Matthews,
Yes.
Commissioner Norwood,
Yes.
Vice Chair Davis,
Yes.
Chair Kent.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0. Thank you.
Okay, that will take us on to commissioner agenda items. There are none. That will take us to unfinished business. We have a consideration of an option to create a housing site inventory for the compliance with the 6th cycle regional housing needs assessment, RENA. This is continued from April 6, 2021 meeting. Let's see, Director Kugel, will you please present?
Absolutely. Thank you, Chair Kent and members of the commission. This item was presented in some detail at the last Planning Commission meeting in April. However, because there were only 3 members present, those commissioners present at the time wanted that item to be continued. And so I have been in communication with all the commissioners to re-review that presentation rather than me go through the entire thing tonight. But just to recap, this is what we're doing is the housing element sites inventory. Getting the commission's view, recommendation on options related to creating an inventory for the 6th cycle housing element. Updating the housing element on a regular cycle is a responsibility of every city in California. And all cities, or at least the ones in our region, are planning for the 6th cycle to cover the period from 2021 to 2029. In this cycle, the cities of Glendora and all cities are responsible for planning for a comparatively large number of housing units to deal with the housing crisis that's been identified by the state. And for Glendora, that number is almost 2,300 housing units. And it doesn't mean that the city has to make sure or warrant that those units would be developed. However, we have to demonstrate that there is capacity within our zoning code and sites identified where such a number of units might be developed, and to meet requirements not only for the number as a whole, but for every income category, low to moderate to market rate that we're required to do. Just to kind of to sum up the presentation last time, the city has for many years, oriented its land development strategy because in large part we're built out primarily with low density single family residential, that growth in meeting the housing needs assessment in each of the cycles has been primarily targeted on Route 66 and more recently Arrow Highway. And so because we have such a large number this time around, we're required to actually to find sites that to rezone because we don't have enough zoning capacity within our existing zoning regulations. So Lorena, if you could put up that slide that we talked about earlier. So we developed 3 options, and there was a map in the original presentation, and there are options A, B, and C. This table shows you the areas where we need to rezone and what the existing zoning handles in terms of density in each of these areas on Route 66 and on Arrow Highway. And so really with that, I'd like to turn it over to the commission. Hopefully if you had to see with the 2 new commissioners there, what your comments on each of the options were, and that the commission have some dialogue on and make a recommendation on which option we should choose to move forward with in completing the housing element and submitting it to the state. So I'll turn it over to the chair.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kugel. So I guess we're going to bring it back to the commission to discuss. You want to start with Mr. Koss? Or Ms. Koss, I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, we had quite a bit of discussion, I know, last meeting. And I think we talked about areas where we could possibly have greater density, and looking primarily at, it looks like the Route 66 corridor and Arrow Highway. And I think our discussion really last time talked about that balance between, you know, preserving our city the way we love it, and also making sure that we have, you know, this growth, this room for growth, and these RENA needs that we're satisfying. So, you know, I think I think that there may be certain areas of the city that we can possibly increase density. But I'd like to hear, I think one of the reasons we continued it is I'd kind of like to hear what those of you that weren't here last time, kind of what your thoughts are.
Okay. Commissioner Matthews, would you like to go now, or do you want to wait?
Actually, if I could ask a couple of questions of staff, I think it might be helpful. Mr. Kugel, what concessions or bonuses are available to developers, and to what extent, along with either one of these options we're looking at?
Currently, the city zoning does not provide any, you know, density bonuses for things. You probably remember, because you were on the commission when we revised the Route 66 specific plan, that prior to 2017 there were a couple of density bonus incentives, you know, that got you up to the maximum density, and so that has been eliminated. And in any of these scenarios, it wouldn't provide density bonuses to get to this density. You just would get that.
So I turn the question a little bit here. So if we went, for example, with option A at 55 units per acre and a 5-story max, are you saying a developer would not be able to enhance that number, at least as far as density, if he included low income housing as part of his project?
There are, outside of the city, well, part of the city's zoning code, there are state density bonuses that are required that every city provide under state law. So those work on a sliding scale based on the percentage of low income units that you provide. So you could get a density bonus if you build a percentage of low income housing within the developments.
So what's the worst case scenario that we as a community would be required to allow if somebody went for the maximum density bonus structure.
Okay, so this is one of the benefits of doing it in Zoom, because I can pull out the state zoning law and look it up and tell you what the sliding scale is. Okay, so, and it depends on the category of income of units. So so if you provide 25% of the units that you built as low income, you're talking about the highest bonus you might get? Is that what your question was?
I think probably just helpful to give us the worst case scenario, if you can encapsulate that based on one of our three options.
Right. So just to really simplify it, if you provide 25% of the units to low income households, you get a 50% increase in density.
Okay. So using that, if I made 28 units of the 55 density acre or density number, then I'd be allowed to add another 28 units there. So in essence, we'd be in excess of 100, in excess of roughly 80 units per acre. Does that sound about right to you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
About 82.
Okay. All right.
And in addition to that, under that scenario, you also would have to provide development concessions on your development standards for parking, height, setbacks, whatever, so they could achieve that level of density. Now, I could tell you that, so that is theoretically possible. Is it going to happen? We haven't had anybody in Glendora apply for a low income density bonus, but somebody could. And in theory, that could happen.
Okay. So another question behind that then. Whichever of these options we decide to vote on tonight and pass on up to the city council, and if assuming they agree with us and approve it and send it on to the state, is it locked in stone, or does the state have the option to return it to us with amendments and modifications?
The state can return it back to us with amendments and modifications. Yeah.
Is there any wagering from your vantage point on if A, B, or C is more likely to get a option return or not from the state?
I don't even want to guess. I think that options A or B, I would say, are more in line with statewide policies regarding, transit-oriented development, because options A and B place the density focused around the station, so it achieves a variety of goals that the state has. Option C a little bit less so, but I don't know. I couldn't tell you if they would view one more favorably than another.
So, okay, does option C provide a sufficient number to the requirement that we were set forth to achieve?
Yeah, the option C, we talked about a buffer that the state wants, right? They want, you to meet your number and add about, for us, it's about 150 to 200 units as a cushion, because they believe, and rightly so, that, projects don't necessarily always get built to the maximum density. It's always something less, or sometimes it's to the maximum, but oftentimes it's something less. So under option C, it's viable. But we probably have to find a few more sites to increase our capacity just a little bit, but I think it's viable.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you. So my thoughts. I have been a proponent for ever since I've been on this commission, and especially as the Gold Line has become a more factual part of our community, that if we were to need additional housing, or if we wanted to increase our housing over and above what we have available, we'd obviously have to go higher. We have to provide more units per acre. And I have always felt that I would prefer to see development of that kind centralized in one location or another. Obviously, with our Gold Lane station going in, it seems like a natural location to be put. My concern is, and the reason for that is, if we can collect our units in a smaller space for the people that prefer that type of housing, and it provides sufficient housing for people who want to be part of our community. For the rest that choose to keep our city more of a small town atmosphere away from that, maybe we take pressure away from developments happening farther outside from a central area. That being said, I have some concerns because ultimately at the end of the day tonight, whatever we choose is not going to necessarily be 100% approved at other levels. And that concerns me. And I don't know, in the scheme of things, part of me says, if we go with A, maybe we sort of get to make that choice because we've offered more than has been asked. But if we go with C and we go with a lower number, those who choose to pick and tear apart and add to what we have already voted upon, at least we're starting from a lower position. So I'm sort of in a quandary. Maybe B is our best option in the scheme of things. Those are my comments.
So
Thank you, Mr. Matthews.
I had a question as well. I know.
Go ahead, Ms. Goss.
Yeah, my question is, so do we have the ability, if we approve these higher density buildings and these maybe a little bit taller buildings, do we have the ability then to adjust things like setbacks, things like, those types of things, so that we can have a little bit of control over maybe what those buildings look like and how they're built?
Yeah, we can establish development standards, which do exist in all of these zones, for setbacks, for maximum height. When it comes to other design guidelines, the state is strongly encouraging cities to be objective in their design guidelines. So if you're gonna, and also to make sure that with your design guidelines and development standards that you can actually achieve the density that you're saying you're adopting.
So would we have the ability to say, okay, if you're going to build a 4-story building, you have these particular things as opposed to smaller buildings, or would it have to be uniform?
You can do that, yes.
Okay. Because I kind of feel that those hubs are really important, and with the goal line, and I agree that might be an area where we want to maybe increase some of our density. So but I would want to have control over some of that in terms of, what are setbacks, things like that. So I just thank you for clarifying that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Commissioner Norwood, do you have any questions or comments?
Yeah, I got, if Jeff could revisit on option C, we talked about acreage, certain properties that we could use. One of them, I know the owner of the Tuesday Morning property expressed interest in having his rezoned into residential. He talked about the property from the Azusa School District, but you mentioned the school district property that you guys have had minimal discussions on that. They have not agreed to sell, or we have not agreed to include that property. No developers have come forward. I just want to get clarification on that.
Yeah, for the Azusa School District property, I'm trying to verify some of the information from them. I did reach out to their business services or assistant superintendent, and they did say that they're still exploring, the options on, what to do with the property. It's my understanding that the site is closed and that they had done some things I believe that they had actually formed a 7-Eleven committee, which is the school district language for when they decided to sell sites a couple of years ago, and they identified this site, but they have not yet made the decision to sell the property, and they're still looking at it.
Okay. Yeah, I know in the last meeting, I was leaning a certain direction, but as I've revisited this and gone through the different scenarios, I do express the same concern that maybe in 2017, when we changed the density requirements, maybe we got a little overzealous because of the, I guess, the political feedback, the comments, the concerns that the commissioners had gotten from their particular people that they were in contact with. And I'm kind of thinking, can we do one of the options but still incorporate parts of option C? I'd like to see us go back into option B and increase some of the density, but at the same time, look at some of these properties that are kind of getting run down and old, where developers are more interested in residential development as they are opposed to, and I'll use the Tuesday morning property as an example, where they've even expressed a desire to have it rezoned. But I'd like to see more density, especially in the areas of the Gold Line. And I don't think I would be going with option C. I think I'd be leaning more towards option B as a middle ground. But I'd like to talk about or inquire about incorporating parts of option C also.
Is that a question to me on, trying to combine the options A, B, and C?
Well, I mean, if we used one option, could we visit parts of option C in terms of rezoning some acreage?
Right.
Whether it's in the future.
Right. So you're suggesting, like with the Tuesday morning site, you look at properties like on Route 66, which are now zoned commercial, and zone them for residential?
Or mixed use, at least at a minimum.
Yeah, that's certainly an option that the commission and council can consider.
So that's pretty much my questions and comments. So my position has changed a little bit since the last meeting, listening to some more of the comments and reviewing it more, but I'd like to hear from the other commissioners also. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Norwood. Vice Chair Davis, do you have any comments or questions?
Well, a couple of things that the other commissioners have touched on. I'm with you, Commissioner Norwood. I've vacillated back and forth as well. What does, if the school property were to be incorporated into the city of Glendora for rezoning somehow, how many units could that potentially be under we'll just use the least case scenario of a C?
So I would imagine, so that property is actually, it's on Barranca, it's 9 acres, as a, ranging, the area around it is mostly R1 single family, and then there is an R2 multifamily project to the south. So, at 9 acres, let's say let's just, an R2 range is sort of the 11 to 15 units to the acre. So let's say it's 12, that'd be about 81 units at 12 units to the acre. If you went up to R3, at 20 units to the acre, that'd be about 180 units.
So
no, sorry, 20 times 9, yes, yeah.
Would that be considered enough buffer that the state may go, that's enough buffer for them? Does that meet our buffer?
I think, yeah, that would. If it was R2 or R3, it would definitely be enough.
Okay. Kind of piggybacking on Commissioner Norwood's statement or question in terms of other sites. Can it be site specific? And I'll use Tuesday morning just as an example because that's been bantered about a little bit. can that be maybe a B where the school is a C? Can it be site specific, or is it all in, all everything if we vote tonight?
Well, it is site specific. The sites inventory is site specific. And with your rezoning program, if you say in your housing element that we adopt that, yes, we are going to rezone these sites, you've committed to doing that. And, you know, the process is that the city then has 3 years after it approves its housing element to make those zoning changes.
I see our city attorney's hand is up. Does she want to weigh in here?
I just wanted to ask that in terms of a school district related site or a school district owned site, how exactly would that work? Would that be something that the school district proposes to sell to a private developer, to sell to the city, to sell to a city housing authority? Because with respect to zoning school districts, I mean, you do have legal issues of intergovernmental immunity by which they are immune from our zoning ordinances.
Yeah, they would right now, and in my understanding, they're immune to the extent that they are operating an educational facility. So if they sell it to a private party, if they sell it to a developer, then it would be, you know, the developer who's initiating an application that would involve rezoning. However, the city can also unilaterally, by identifying it within in the sites inventory, initiate a zone change in the property. It doesn't change what the school district can do with the property as a school district, but if they sold it, it would fall under, you know, the regulations that the city adopts.
Is sold it to whom? Sold it to the city? Sold it
A
to
developer.
Oh yeah, if they sold to a developer, then that takes care of my concern. That's
Yeah, I'm not suggesting that the city buy the property.
okay. If they sell it to a developer, then it's no longer school district owned property. But there are some severe limitations in terms of trying to rezone school district property.
If the school district owns.
That's correct.
That's why this would have to be cooperative with the school district. They have to decide to dispose of the property. And as I indicated, our one lengthy conversation was that at least last year, they were closely looking at that.
Okay. Great, thank you.
Jeff, can owners of properties, let's say maybe they're on Sierra Madre, maybe they're on Lone Hill, maybe they're on somewhere. Can they petition us for their individual properties to be rezoned?
Yes. They can file an application for a zone change, general plan amendment, like any other property owner.
Okay, and would that work towards our RENA goals?
Are you talking about?
We're going to go ahead. We're going to go ahead and we're going to earmark properties right now for site inventory.
Right.
But as time goes on, as property owners petition us, if they even do, I don't know how often that happens. If they do, does that work towards our RENA goals for site inventory?
That's a little bit two different things. On the one hand, any unit that is produced and permitted, actually given a certificate of occupancy during the RENA cycle, the 21 to 29 cycle, counts toward, we get a credit toward the RENA. But for purposes of a sites inventory, what we have to do from the beginning is actually to identify specific sites in the city that are zoned, you know, for the requisite number of units and those sites will likely, you know, turn over and redevelop during the planning period. You have to demonstrate those things through the sites inventory. You know, it may happen that and I'm sure it will, that properties we can't even imagine at this point will come to us and say, hey, I want to rezone, I want to, upzone this area, I want to develop this area. That will probably happen to some degree. Although quite honestly, we're identifying most every site on Route 66 and Arrow Highway that's zoned multifamily. So if they do it in any of those places, it's going to be in the sites inventory. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, it does. I didn't know if something went from an R2, I mean, even not even R, but if it went from a residential site to a mixed use site, do we get credit? And it doesn't get built. Do we get credit for that in the site inventory? We can't add it to.
If you want to identify a site, it's a matter of identifying the sites. So if you have a site in mind in an existing single family area that you believe is likely to transition to a higher density, if that was offered, that could also be something we do in the sites inventory.
Okay. I'm just thinking of things that come along down the road, probably more likely after we choose A, B, or C tonight.
Right. Yeah. So we're going to submit our proposal to the state. And so we need to be specific about where exactly these units we think that they're likely to happen.
Right.
What happens in the future, we don't know, but we have to at least tell them where we think it's going to happen.
Okay. That's all I have right now.
All right, thank you. I have a few comments. One of these is going to happen. Just like we got hit with ADUs, the states are going to hit you with this density throughout your city. And this is our opportunity to have some control, so to speak. It's going to happen, whether you like it or not. So with that said, I think we have a huge investment in our gold line. I think we should utilize that. And so I think we should more concentrate at a minimum B, if not A. Otherwise, if we go with C, it's spread out all over town, and you've got 3-story stuff spread out all over town that currently is more 2-story-ish. And so I think C is not an option for me. I think the reality is this is coming, and let's be smart about how we do this. One thing to remember too, we can rezone all this and none of this could get built. Just because we zone it doesn't mean it happens. It really doesn't matter if the school owns the site or the school doesn't own the site. It's a zoning that comes in a general plan that could lay there for 100 years and never be developed. So, and I think to pick and choose pieces around town, to me, not palatable in my opinion. I think if I were to lean to A, I would like to see some setbacks incorporated as you get higher than the second floor. I think even on the B, we need to do that. But Mr. Kugel, my understanding is that's a later date, different meeting.
Yeah, I think we need to decide what the density we're going to move forward with. And then like I said, we have 3 years to do the actual rezoning, and we can address specific development standards through that process.
Okay. They just can't be so cumbersome that they make it impossible to achieve these numbers, right?
Right.
I mean, but the units across from El Amigo, which have a very minimum setback, we could adjust that setback when we go with this stuff.
Yeah, and actually we did in 2017 as a result of some of those projects, we increased the setback to 15 feet in the areas around the gold line. And
do we do anything with the architecture as far as doing setbacks after the first floor, second floor, third floor, and so forth?
No, we had existing design guidelines in place, which are, allow us to ask for those things. But I think what we would probably want to do is make some of those guidelines more objective than they currently are. That is what the state wants you to do, rather than sort of saying shall or encourage. If you want to step back at this 3rd or 4th floor, you need to say that specifically in your code.
Okay, I think we need to do that because across from El Amigo, they didn't get that memo and they went straight up. And with the setback that happened, we've corrected it, but not all the way. So just for the record, I'd like to see that corrected later in life as we move forward. Have you seen other cities that have done this, and what's the state's response?
I'm sorry?
Have you seen other cities that have already made this decision and they pushed it to Sacramento? I'll give you an example. If we pushed B, are they going to push back and say, no, do A?
We are still relatively early in the process. I don't know if Holly Anderson from Veronica Tam has been helping us, and they've been processing a lot of housing elements in the state. Holly, are you there, and are you aware of cities that, especially in the Skag region, that are further along than us in the process? I don't know, Lorraine, if you can, other issues, yeah. Okay, maybe she's not. In any event, I'm not aware of other cities. We're relatively, prompt in the process right now.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
I haven't gotten any feedback from any of the neighboring cities who are in the San Gabriel Valley COG with us about what type of pushback or questions they've gotten from the state. So, because
I guess that could go to A as well. We could push A up to Sacramento, and they could come back and say, no, make it 65.
Well, I think it would be usually, and I can tell you the last time, my experience with HCD is the last cycle, they were not very aggressive. 2 cycles ago, the 4th cycle from 8 to 13, they were the things that they nitpicked about at that point were associated with the specific sites you selected. Like they were challenging your conclusion that those sites were likely to develop or likely to develop in the way. And so we had to make some changes there. And then there were also various changes to legally comply with a housing element they wanted us to make. I mean, I can imagine those types of comments coming back where they're going to maybe challenge some of our analysis in the housing element update. They might challenge some of the sites themselves as not being ripe to develop, which could lead us to even reevaluating even different types of zoning changes, but that's just speculation at this point.
So can you do me a favor? Can you go to the map with the colored areas? You got yellow, purple, blue, red.
Are you talking about the map of the entire?
Yeah, the city. So it's item 3, page 9.
You have that, I think.
Do you know which slide that is?
It says item 3, page 9 on the top of the page. It looks like a track map. It's got all the colors. It's got CAP, T5, R3, C2.
Oh, okay, it's probably slide number 8, I think. Not that one.
Okay.
This one?
I'm not seeing it, but sure.
On
yeah, that's it. So just humor me a minute. So in the new TCMU, in option A, that can go to 5 stories?
Yes. The purple.
Step above to the yellow, that can go to 4 stories?
No, that's actually 3. That remains 3.
Okay, so through the village, it's a 3.
Yep.
And we currently have 3 along the post office.
Correct.
Okay. And then south of Route 66, the lighter blue, the GLG.
That was taken out of as a housing district at all and made a medical oriented district because of the hospital's presence there.
And then the red, what's happening with that?
RSC, that would be restored back to be purple again. So you could, in theory, do a 3 to 5 story building there.
Okay. How far does the 5-story reach? Just in that purple area?
Just in the purple area, plus the little pink RSC.
Pink RSC. Okay.
Yes,
and that's option A.
Yeah.
If we go to B, that all becomes 4-story and 3-story accordingly.
Right.
Okay. So it's in around the gold line.
Right. And then, yeah, correct. That's it.
It's the Albertson Center. It's a continuation of Avalon to Pasadena, which is, there's a school there now, which is quite healthy, so I doubt it's going anywhere. Then you got a medical center and a glass shop on the corner. To the west of Vermont, you got industrial and a trailer park, essentially, right?
Can you go, I think let's go a couple slides forward, Lorena. Go ahead, keep going. Next. I think I'm trying to keep going because this, I wanted to show, was that the end?
That was towards the front. You want me to go?
Yeah, go back. That, yes, these are the sites identified in the TCMU, Terry. So that area that was in purple or proposed to be in purple, this shows you the actual sites that we would submit to the state.
Okay. Okay. All right. All right. Folks, I just think this is coming and we got to be proactive and make a decision where we want to put this, because otherwise the state's going to put it where they damn well please. Do any commissioners have any more questions after everybody's spoken?
I actually do. I have a couple questions and comments.
Commissioner Cobb.
The slide there, is it, you said the sites, Jeff, are these acreages or is it the TCMU sites? I was confused on that slide.
The numbers?
No, this particular slide up, the blue and green. Are those, is that from option C or option?
These are the sites themselves do not change under the options. The sites are the sites. It's just a question of what's the density.
Okay, all right. I'm sorry, Paula. Go ahead.
That's all right, no worries. I just had a couple comments. I know there was a lot of talk about, oh wait, I gotta put my hand down. There we go. There was a lot of talk about, you know, the possible school district site and everything. And the truth is we don't know what's gonna happen with that. We don't know if they're gonna sell it. We don't know if somebody's gonna buy it. I don't think that should even be part of our consideration at this point, because we don't, I mean, that's, even if they sell it, it could be, you know, years or whatever. So I don't think that whether or not they sell, if they do and it gets developed, then that's a bonus. But I don't think we should really be considering that as part of our choices here today. And I do really, I have to say, last time when we thought about this, I was kind of leaning one way, and now I'm leaning, you know, very much another way, that I agree with, you know, Commissioner Kent, that this is coming, and, you know, we don't really have a choice except for, you know, how we do it. You know, we have to do it whether we want to or not. And so we have a little bit of choice in how we do it. And I think that development around the Gold Line is probably the best area. I have to say I was heavily leaning towards C at the last meeting. Now I'm looking more favorably towards B. I'm not thrilled with the concept of a 5-story building, but I think we kind of really need to open the door. And I think if we do allow 4-story buildings, that kind of gives us the opportunity then to add those you know, those requirements in how it's going to be built, that there has to be bigger offset, those kind of things. So but I just wanted to say, I don't think we should be considering even the school district site as part of our decision, because it's not here and now, you know.
What is the best we could hope for density wise in 4 stories? Is 45 truly it, or is it possible that you can get a higher density?
I think it's possible you could get higher density. I mean, it all depends on the size of the unit you're going to build, right? You know, if you're going to do, you know, single room occupancy, then you could really get a lot of density. You know, a lot of 1 bedrooms versus, so yeah, I mean, but you typically, I think at 4 stories for, let's say, units that were built in the Avalon Bay, that mix of units, 45 at 4 stories is appropriate for those types of units.
Can we see the slide with the chart again, the ABC options? Thanks.
Yeah.
Jeff, I question, all 3 options, especially A and B, meet what we're looking for the 2,300 units, in addition to the, I forget if it was 10 or 20% buffer. But A and B both meet the minimum requirements to reach the 2,300 structures. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah, A and B.
With the buffer.
Yeah, with the buffer, A and B are.
You have a slide that shows how much of what that buffer each option had with the buffer. I don't know if that would be helpful to.
Yeah, we can run. Let's go to the beginning of. I'll run through the slides really quickly to just remind you. Is this go to the next slide? If this, I think you. Okay, next slide. Next slide. Next slide. Next one. Next one. Next one. Next one. Keep going. Just as a reminder, we talked about the TCME. I'll stop here for a second. So this is the other location under both options option A and B that would be allowed for 4-story, which is where the Elwood Apartments is. So next slide. So these are the sites, and you can see, the blue sites are from the previous cycle that we're carrying over, and so there's already a fair amount of housing in this block, and so in theory you might get one or more of these properties to turn over. Next slide. And then this is the third area, the Barranca Gateway, and we right now in the original Route 66 specific plan, if I'm remembering correctly, I think you could get up to 4 stories, but under the proposed revision or A and B, it's only 3. Next slide. And then these are the sites, of course, many of the commercial sites, we put in there to potentially turn over. Next slide. And this is Arrow Highway. I'll just move through this. Next slide. Next slide. Option A. So next slide. So this is option A, and I included a buffer calculation below 251 units for option A. Next slide. Next slide. For option B, a buffer of 171 units. Next slide. Next slide. And option C, 48 unit buffer. So we're basically looking for another 100 to 150 units, sites that would accommodate. And because it gets difficult in the sense that we start running out of sites along our major east-west corridors on option C without either rezoning commercial areas on one of those major east-west corridors, or looking to areas off of the main corridors to rezone or look for some sites. And because, so anyway, it just becomes a little bit of a challenge. It would be a gift in terms of for option C, if that's the way it heads, that something like a school site pops up because it's 9 acres, it's huge, and you can generate in theory a lot of units off of one site. It's tougher when you're trying to cobble together small sites all over the city.
So if we chose option A, though, the city council still has the option to go a different direction than if we were to vote for that one.
Yeah. If the council, I think the council, I'm hearing that I'm going to be scheduling a similar discussion with the council in the not too distant future. I don't have a date yet, but I would imagine it would be probably May, or maybe at the very latest, the first meeting in June.
But they could do that in anything we say.
Right.
Yeah, but
is it time to make a motion? Can I make a motion?
Sure, go for it.
I'm going to make a motion for option B, and my reasoning is, I think that we need to do the 4 stories. I'm not comfortable with option A because of the 5 stories. I think if we need to go there at some point in the distant future, we can, but I don't know that we, I want to take that leap at this point. So I would like to make a motion for option B.
Do we have a second motion?
I'll second that motion.
Was Commissioner Norwood?
Yeah.
I will conduct an oral roll call if we're ready to vote. So Commissioner Kiosk,
What if we have a different motion?
Oh,
Lana, I believe, I'll just defer to the city attorney, but I believe that if a motion's on the table, Lana, do they have to take action on the motion before they introduce another motion?
Somebody could try to make a substitute motion. Can you hear me? I'm not on mute, right?
Yes,
Okay.
you're good.
Somebody could make a substitute motion. You also could make discuss a friendly amendment to the original motion.
I then, given that, I would like to make a substitute motion for option A. I feel B is a safe spot for all of us. I believe A represents what we believe is the better route to go for development in this city if we're forced to provide housing. So that's why I would make a substitute motion for A.
Is there a second on the substitute?
I
motion?
second that motion. That would have been my second. That would have been my substitute motion as well.
So the substitute motion is voted upon prior to the first motion.
Okay, then I would like to make a substitute motion for C.
Okay, fair enough. Gotta get a second though.
I know.
I was gonna my next question. Are you gonna get a second?
no second.
Yeah, all right.
Wait, no, okay, Lorena, no.
I get it. I get it.
Okay, so the third substitute motion lacks for failure of a second. We can vote on the first substitute motion first.
So I'm going to conduct an oral roll call for the first motion. Commissioner Kiosk?
wait, which one are we voting on?
I'm sorry.
We're voting on the substitute motion.
Oh, sorry.
Wait.
Excuse me.
So
this will
we're
be for
voting on-
substitute option number A. Is that correct?
A.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so we're voting on option A.
Okay. So
Okay.
Commissioner Kiosk,
No.
Commissioner Matthews,
Yes.
Commissioner Norwood,
No.
Commissioner Davis, or Vice Chair Davis, excuse me.
No.
Chair Kent,
Yes.
motion fails with 3 no and 2 yes.
So now we return to the original motion that was
Okay.
moved by Commissioner Koss and seconded by,
Commissioner Norwood.
thank you.
You're welcome.
So we return to voting upon that motion.
The original one. So for option B, Commissioner Kiosk,
Yes.
Commissioner Matthews,
No.
Commissioner Norwood,
Yes.
Vice Chair Davis,
Yes.
Chair Kent,
I'm going to vote no. I think it's a poor option.
okay, so then the motion carried 3-2.
Okay. On to the next.
Good job, guys.
Nice discussion.
Okay, that's going to, sorry, I lost my page. That's going to take us to new business. This is a study session on the zoning regulation and conceptual plans related to the development of self-service station on certain property located at 1950 Auto Center Drive, project number PLN 20-0038. The location is 1950 Auto Center Drive. Applicant is Jacob Blaze, Kimberly Horn and Associates. The property owner is Walmart Real Property. I would invite Assistant Planner Joseph Weaver to present a project, please.
Hello, thank you, Chair. I apologize. I don't believe my camera is working at the moment, so that's why you're not able to see me. Good evening, Commissioners. This item is a study session on the zoning regulations and conceptual plans related to the development of a self-service station on certain property located at 1950 Auto Center Drive. Project number is PLN 20-0038. Next, please. The purpose of this study session is to serve as a preliminary review of the submitted conceptual project and to provide input regarding the proposed use, which is a fuel station within the existing planned redevelopment or PR zone, which is a site-specific zoning designation. The establishment of this use is a policy question that the Planning Commission and later the City Council would ultimately need to decide upon future public hearings. Also, the Commission shall identify any site or design concerns that should be addressed as part of a future application. This study session offers the Commission and the public the opportunity to comment on the current version of the proposed project prior to a formal submittal, where the project details will be finalized for Planning Commission and City Council consideration. Lastly, this is only a study session and no decision will be made this evening, as the Commission's review and discussion is only intended to provide guidance and to the applicant and planning staff for future formal submittals. Next, please. Quickly to go over some site history. It's a little lengthy. The subject property is developed with an existing Walmart retail center, which includes an automotive center for basic automotive repairs, which was built with a city permit in 1993. The Walmart received approval of conditional use permits to allow the on-site storage of hazardous materials as part of the auto center. In 2001, the City Council approved a development plan review and conditional use permits for the construction and operation of a 6-pump fuel station within the northwestern portion of the subject property. This fuel station was never constructed, and as a result, the entitlement ultimately expired in 2003. Next, please. Or I'm sorry, Lorena, keep it there. In 2005, the city received a concept review application for a similar 6-pump fuel station with a slightly different site plan design. This concept review application was reviewed by the city's development review committee, but in this instance, the proposal never moved forward as no formal application was ever submitted. In 2011, the City Council approved a development plan review and conditional use permit for a 30,000 square foot addition to the existing Walmart Supercenter and to allow full site sale of alcoholic beverages, off-site sale. Although this project's not directly related to the fuel station, it's important for the context of the site as a whole. And lastly, and most recently, December 3rd, 2020, the applicant, Kimley Horn and Associates, on behalf of Walmart, submitted a concept review application for an 8-pump fuel station, which was reviewed by staff. A concept review letter was outlined concerns and suggestions that was sent to the applicant. The letter is included in the report as attachment E. The applicant considered staff's comments and submitted updated plans for a study session with the Planning Commission, of which plans are included in this staff report presentation. Next, please. Shown here is a vicinity map of the property, and more specifically the proposed project site on the northwestern corner. The property is approximately 512,265 square feet, or 11.76 acres in size, and it's currently improved with an existing 155,756 square foot Walmart retail center, along with an automotive center for auto repair, and a parking lot with 671 spaces. The project site area is located within the parking lot towards the northwestern corner of the subject property. This site area is approximately 17,626 square feet in size. The project site is located just south of Auto Center Drive and directly east of the intersection of South Lone Hill Avenue and Auto Center Drive, as shown on the top left. The 57 freeway is directly east of this property. Next, please. This project site has a general plan land use designation of regional commercial, which per the general plan is intended to house department stores, retail outlets, restaurants, offices, automobile dealerships, hotels, other complementary uses similar to those. The subject property has a zoning designation of planned redevelopment or PR. The PR zone is a site-specific zoning designation, as there are no standards offered in the zoning code for such a zoning designation. In this zone, the development standards and requirements, along with permitted uses, shall be established by the city council. Therefore, this project will ultimately be reviewed in future hearings by both the Planning Commission and the City Council, who will need to determine if this proposed use and development should be allowed, along with what those development standards for the site should be. As the PR zone does not contain any specific standards, for the purposes of the proposed use, staff has referenced the GMC section for service stations, for fuel stations, as general development standards and design suggestions are provided. Next. And just quickly, this aerial shows kind of the site in context of the surrounding areas. To the north, you have the auto dealerships, north of Auto Center Drive, industrial warehouses and various offices to the south. You have the railroad directly to the southwest, and the freeway, 57 freeway, is located to the east. Next, please. So per the definition provided in the Glendora Municipal Code, the proposal includes a self-service station, which is defined as a retail place of business engaged in the sale of various automotive accessories that are generally required for the operation of motor vehicles, which may include a convenience store. The proposal also includes a convenience store / kiosk, which is located underneath the station's canopy and is defined as a building or a portion of a building that's devoted to the sale of items, which include food, tobacco products, other related products related to automotive care. And moving forward, staff will be referencing the proposal as a fuel station just for clarity purposes. The proposal includes the following: the removal of 63 parking stalls within the existing parking lot, as well as 8 existing parking lot trees. The addition of 16 parking stalls and 8 parking lot trees. 8 fuel dispensers, which will have the capacity of serving 16 vehicles at a time. An approximately 6,850 square foot overhead canopy structure. A 440 square foot kiosk, which is shown on this rendering as well. 3 underground fuel tanks, which will have the aggregate storage capacity of 50,000 gallons of fuel. Trash enclosure and air station. And lastly, various monument signage, including the following: a freestanding fuel pricing display sign directly to the north of the fuel station off of Auto Center Drive. The addition of a pricing display to an existing monument sign, which is located near the Lone Hill Auto Center intersection. And the addition of a pricing display to an existing pylon sign, which is located on the southeast corner of the lot adjacent to the 57 freeway. Next, please. Here are just some photos of the existing project area. The photo number 1 is facing looking eastward. This is the parking area that's proposed to be demoed and replaced with this fuel station. And photo number 2 is the same area but facing west. Next, please. A couple more photos. The photo on the left is facing south in the project area, and the photo on the right is facing southeast. Again, this is the north western portion of the lot here. Next, please. And these photos show the area to the directly west of the project site, which displays a detention basin, as well as the railroad tracks and the facilities across from it. Next, please. And this last photo is just the photo of the site area, kind of stepped back, looking to the north, which is viewing where the proposed fuel station will be. Next, please. Shown on this plan is the area proposed to be affected. The total site area is, again, approximately 17,626 square feet. 63 parking stalls and 8 trees will need to be removed as part of the demo plan. And the northerly drive aisle will be slightly shifted to the north. The southerly drive aisle will be shifted slightly to the south, as there are 2 drive aisles that will be affected by the service station. Next, please. Shown here is a proposed site plan that encompasses the entire lot. The fuel service station includes 8 fuel dispensers, as mentioned before. So these fuel dispensers will have the capacity of serving 16 vehicles at a time. And the canopy structure will be 6,850 square feet. You can see the outline of the canopy on the top left of the site plan there. Again, the convenience store size will be 440 square feet, and vehicles will be allowed to enter from the north and south of the proposed fuel station, and exit through the northerly drive approaches.
Hey, Joe, explain the purple part for everybody.
Yeah, the purple part is included just to kind of demonstrate the turning movements of the proposed the gas truck for refueling. The next site plan on the next page will more clearly show the site area enlarged. This was just the plan that was submitted by the applicant. And again, it just shows how the fuel truck will access in and out of the station. As such, 16 parking stalls and 8 parking lot trees will be added around the project area. And again, a trash enclosure and air station will be located directly to the north of the fuel station. Lastly, 3 underground fuel tanks will be located directly east of the proposed canopy and buried 15 feet underground. The plans indicate 2 20-gallon tanks and 1 10-gallon tank. Again, the total fuel storage capacity for this station will be 30,000 gallons. And lastly, the proposed hours of fuel and kiosk service will be 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And the proposed hours of fuel delivery for the fuel gas trucks will be from 8 p.m. to 7 a.m. to try to avoid peak traffic hours. Next, please. So shown here is an enlarged visual of what we just saw. Again, I highlighted the red. I highlighted the canopy and kiosk structure in red, so you can kind of clearly see the limits of the structure here. So this kind of gives you a better idea on the orientation and design, site plan design for the proposal. Next, please. And this is another enlarged site plan. So again, it shows the area along with the parking stalls to be proposed. And again, I highlighted the canopy structure as well as the kiosk, so you can get an idea on where the structures will be placed on the site. Direct access to the proposed fuel station is from an existing driveway to the northwest of the project site off of Auto Center Drive. This driveway is approximately 190 feet east of the intersection of Auto Center Drive and South Lone Hill. This driveway has a deceleration lane that will allow eastbound traffic to enter the site without interfering with through traffic on Auto Center Drive. And this drive approach allows only right in and right out access. Again, I'm talking about the drive entry on the western portion of the project site there. Existing secondary driveway further east will also serve the fuel station, which you can see on the visual on the left, which is the drive aisle to the east of the project site. The current site plan layout features a design where vehicles can enter the fuel station either from the north or south. As the fuel station will be superimposed on the existing parking lot, the two existing northerly parking lot drive aisles, which is a two-way aisle as well as a one-way aisle, will be impacted from this fuel station. These drive aisles will provide direct interior access rather to and from the fuel station. Staff notes that future submittals will include a detailed analysis of nearby intersections, circulation and queuing analysis, and a parking assessment to analyze the potential impacts of this proposal. Both level of service and vehicle miles traveled will be used to analyze the traffic impacts of the proposal. Traffic and circulation will be further analyzed upon the formal application submittal and prior to future public hearings. Next, please. This table quickly shows the project's compliance with the parking requirement as stated in the municipal code. So currently the site contains 671 stalls, which per the code requirement is 63 stalls in excess of what's required. Per the requirement, only 608 stalls are required currently. The convenience store, in conjunction with the fuel station, has a parking requirement of 8 stalls, which consists of 7 plus 1 for each employee. The proposed fuel station would remove 63 stalls and add 16 parking stalls. This would result in a net loss of 47 stalls. Despite this, the total parking stall number with the inclusion of the fuel station will be 624 parking stalls, which is compliant with the code requirements for the existing Walmart center in conjunction with the proposed fuel station. Next, please. The proposal includes the canopy as well as the kiosk structure and the 8 pumps. So you can see the rendering here, which consists of a canopy fascia finished with a medium Walmart blue, which is their signature color, along with various white and gray colors. These colors are consistent with the main Walmart building. And the canopy on the canopy columns that support the canopy consists again of a white color with stone veneer accents, both of which are displayed on the main Walmart building. Next, please. And these are kiosk elevations of the kiosk structure. This consists primarily of a light tan color with stone veneer accents for the siding and a dark brown color for the building fascia. Both the west and east elevations of the kiosks will consist of display coolers, which will contain various drinks and items for sale, along with shelves that will contain various automotive products. The kiosk structure will contain 1 employee per shift, with the longest shift being 9 hours. The employee will receive payments for fuel and other goods through a service window on the north elevation. Again, various items such as chips, candy, soda, and water will be available for sale, and no alcoholic beverages are proposed to be sold from the kiosk, nor will they be allowed. This limitation will be documented on the future CUP. Next, please. And shown here is a proposed kiosk floor plan. This is an outdoor service kiosk, meaning that the customers will choose their items from outside through the coolers and bring their items to purchase at the service counter window. The only publicly accessible interior area of this kiosk is the gender neutral restroom, which you see on the right side of the floor plan. Next, please. Shown here is a conceptual landscape plan. Again, 8 existing trees are going to be removed as part of this proposal, which are shown with the X's there. And 8 additional trees will be replaced. Staff is going to further review the proposed landscape requirements listed in the municipal code, as well as the city's urban forestry manual, and review if any other parking lot upgrades and right-of-way improvements need to be made as part of this project as well. Next, please. And lastly, we come to the proposed signage, which is shown. The existing property currently has one monument sign, which is located on the northwest corner of the lot near the intersection of South Lone Hill and Auto Center. Additionally, there is one existing freestanding pylon sign located on the southeast corner of the property adjacent to the 57 freeway. The 2 existing signs, you can see the existing monument sign on the left side shown as a photo, the existing pylon sign shown on the right as a photo. The proposed signage includes the addition of a fuel pricing display to the existing monument sign located at the intersection. Doing this will increase its height to 13 feet. And this sign, this proposed sign is shown on the bottom left. A new 7-foot tall monument sign with fuel pricing display is proposed along Auto Center Drive, just north of the proposed fuel station. And this sign is shown on the top right. Lastly, a fuel pricing display is also proposed to be added to the existing pylon sign adjacent to the freeway. This is shown on the bottom right of the slide. Staff would like to note that the municipal code does not address freeway or pylon signs such as this. And lastly, various Walmart signage will be proposed on the canopy fascia, just branding, simple branding signage. All the signage and proposed signage is subject to the requirements listed in the municipal code, section 19.24.070, which offers sign standards for commercial zones, which staff will use as a reference for this proposal. Next, please. Staff has reviewed the proposal and a concept review letter was sent to the applicant containing staff's comments. Updated plans were resubmitted by the applicant, and staff notes that some comments have not been addressed or are in the process of being addressed. Below, staff lists some discussion items for the commission's consideration tonight. Note that these are not a comprehensive list of staff's comments, but rather a general summary of major concerns and items that would like to be discussed among the commission. First is the site plan layout. Regarding the site plan design, the proposed site plan, which is shown on the left, it consists of a fuel station, again, with 8 fuel dispensers. And the fuel station is positioned parallel to Auto Center Drive, as shown. The fuel station is designed in a way that vehicles will enter from both the north and south of the station and exit again from the north and south. In the concept review letter, staff expressed concern with this orientation and design of the fuel station as it is proposed. Staff believes that the current proposal may not integrate well with the existing site and could result in various circulation issues, including overflow, bottlenecks, and dead-end scenarios for vehicles. Both the 2001 version, which is shown on the top right, and the 2005 concept review version, which is shown on the bottom right, consisted of a fuel station which was perpendicular to Auto Center Drive rather than parallel. Staff would simply like to request that the applicant and commission explore the option of reorienting the fuel station 90 degrees, similar to previous proposals, and even potentially adding queuing lanes and areas similar to previous versions, such as the 2005 site plan. Doing so would orient vehicle queuing into one-way traffic lanes, which would travel from east to west and offer escape lanes to the north and south of the station. Again, staff would like the commission and applicant to explore this alternate site plan layout and believes this configuration may integrate better with the existing site and parking lot. The site plan for the 2005 concept review, again, consists of a fuel station orientation similar to that which staff is recommending the commission explore tonight. Next, please. Regarding proposed signage, staff believes that the proposed gas pricing signage is excessive and not compliant with the municipal code sections for signs in commercial zones. Pertaining to the proposed monument signs, the sign code for fuel stations does allow one double-faced freestanding sign. As the proposal includes 2 monument signs with fuel pricing displays, staff recommended that no fuel pricing signage is added to the existing monument sign located at the intersection. Just as context, the nearby Sam's Club fuel station only has 1 fuel pricing monument sign. So staff finds the allowance for 1 fuel pricing monument sign appropriate for this proposal. Additionally, the proposed monument sign directly adjacent to the fuel station shall not exceed 35 square feet per sign face, which is in the code. And pertaining to the freestanding pylon freeway sign, staff highly discourages the addition of the electric fuel pricing sign as staff believes it's excessive, unsightly, and not typical for this area. Next, please. And lastly, as part of staff's analysis, there are 15 proposed parking stalls located within an existing water detention basin area, which is to the left. I'm sorry, to the west of the fuel station. And I've highlighted these parking stalls on the plan here. Staff would simply like the applicant to verify that these proposed stalls will not interfere with the collection and drainage of water in this area, as the entire northwestern portion of this lot is a water detention basin. So as such, further analysis and studies will be needed for this area to show that these parking stalls at this location won't impact the water detention basin. Next, please. So next steps, to reiterate, this is a study session, so no decision will be made this evening, as the commission's discussion is only intended to provide guidance to the applicant and planning staff, which will be considered for future formal submittals. The project applicant shall consider the discussion comments presented at this evening's meeting to formalize the scope of their proposed project. If the proposal is to proceed, the applicant must submit for the following applications, which include a conditional use permit for the proposed fuel station, which is the use, and for the storage of more than 55 gallons of hazardous material, which is required by code, and along with a development plan review, which is for the construction of a fuel station in a PR zone. At the time of formal submittal, all environmental analysis and related studies will be reviewed and finalized. The complete application will come before both the Planning Commission and City Council in the form of public hearings. Next, please. A courtesy notice was mailed to property owners within a 500-foot radius on April 22nd of this year. To this day, staff has not received any inquiries regarding this project. Next, please. So finally, since this is a study session on a conceptual project, the commission is being asked to receive and file the staff report and provide staff with policy direction and preliminary input regarding the proposed fuel station at 1950 Auto Center Drive. That concludes my staff report. There are representatives from Kimley Horn that are present this evening and will be available for questions along with planning staff. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that report. I do appreciate it. So this is where we're gonna all have our comments, questions, and thoughts, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I have a couple questions. I guess I don't mind the location. I understand you guys trying to turn it to face north, south, to face east, west. I'm sorry. My issue is, and including with this one, is it just opens up into the drive aisle. If you go to the map that has the purple swoosh on it, the truck route, that has the least amount of clutter on it. You there? Let me know when you get there. So if you look at the west side of the canopy, it abuts the drive aisle with no landscaping, no break whatsoever. I personally, since we're over parked by 47 stalls, would like to see this thing pushed eastbound at least 2 stalls to put some landscape break between the canopy and the drive aisle. Just to break it up. I do have some concerns with traffic. I'm not sure where you would put this. I don't know. Maybe this won't be as busy as Costco and Sam's Club, where Sam's Club's not quite as bad, but Costco, they stack out onto Gladstone regularly on the weekends. So I think we need to be real mindful of that when we reconsider this, or when we consider the ultimate design on this. That's my big issues. And then I think I have a question of staff, and tell me if we can wrap this around into this. When we approved Costco many years ago, we allowed them to put a pylon sign down at Glen Oak Sports area. And the sign's faded, barely can read that it says Walmart. Can we tie to this that they maintain that sign that the city allowed them to have when they built the whole complex? Or can we tell them to take the damn thing down?
Yeah, I think we were actually, it's funny, Commissioner Kent, we were wondering what the origin of that sign was, because we've been trying to do research to find out where it came, why it's there. Yeah, it's an off-site sign anyway, so it probably should be removed. I don't know how.
Yeah, it was given to them. I don't know. I shouldn't say given, because I don't know who paid for it. It was allowed to be there because at the time, there was the same story you get from everybody. We have a great commercial area, but it's hard to find because of the freeway pattern, the interchanges, the off ramps, and blah, blah, blah. So it was a gift, so to speak, from the city to allow them to put that sign up 2 miles away. Unfortunately, since the day they installed it, they haven't maintained it at all. So if somehow we can, maybe a gentleman's agreement, they'll clean it up when they do this. I don't know, but if you could look into that for me. But other than that, I think we can make this work. We got a lot of area. We've got 63 extra spots going into this. We got 47 with their design, so we're over parked. There's really nowhere else to put this thing without, well, I mean, you can put it in the back corner, but you can't put it west of there because that's a water detention basin and that's water quality and that can't go away for environmental reasons. So I just think if we can get it moved and get some landscaping added to it, we might be able to work something out. So let me take it to Vice Chair Davis. Do you have any questions or comments or thoughts?
Yeah, well, I'm with you, and I got a funny feeling I'm going to be with the rest of them too. The circulation issue just bothers me. So close to the entrance there, and I'm not sure I caught all the. I know it's right turn in, right turn out, but I don't know what prohibits somebody from making a right-hand turn in, then an immediate left-hand turn to head into the pump stalls. And I immediately saw this as being madness and mayhem from a circulation standpoint. The way it went lengthwise north and south, I thought that makes sense. You'll come in, you'll pull in, and you'll go out a different way. And I don't see cars crossing lanes as much as I do with this orientation. And I guess I would ask the applicant, why? What is your thinking in terms of running it east-west versus north-south?
Yeah, good afternoon, commissioners, or I say good evening now. Thank you guys for hosting us. Jacob Glaze from Kimley Horn. I've taken a good amount of notes and I'm happy to answer some of the questions now or I'm happy to answer Commissioner Davis's question right now, or I can save them all to the end, whatever you guys would prefer.
Why don't we gather them up and then we can get you with it at the end, okay?
That sounds good. Thank you.
Okay. Well, let me.
Vice Chair Davis, are you done?
Yeah, I got a couple other little small things. Walmart has been famous for law enforcement activity over the years. I would hazard to say that many of the calls that happen in Glendora happen on the Walmart site, whether it's retail theft or auto burglary or whatever going on there. And I don't know what the numbers are, but I hear it from law enforcement all the time that they're always at Walmart. And I guess to put on your list of questions is, what, if anything, other than the guy sitting in the cab there in the enclosed office, is going to be done for security if you're inviting even more vehicles into the lot 24/7? Costco's not 24/7. Sam's Club isn't 24/7. It's not that other smaller stations aren't, but this is a main site with an awful lot of circulation traffic around it. So that would be one of my questions. And then I guess I would just agree with staff reports. I'm not in real favor of that sign, that pylon sign. I don't think it's necessary, but Walmart's a pretty visible site from the freeway and most thoroughfares in and around it. So that's my 2 cents worth for now.
Yeah, thank you, Vice Chair. Commissioner Norwood.
Yeah, probably. I also have the same concerns on the circulation. I just don't believe heading southbound on Lone Hill, when you make that left, that you're not gonna, you got those 2 left-hand turn lanes, so you can head east on Auto Center, isn't gonna get impacted. So I'd like to see the reconfiguration, even the perpendicular function of it. I think there's going to be traffic issues in the parking lot no matter what. If they're trying to head east out to make a left onto Auto Center on that one driveway where you can make the left, I mean, it backs up there all the time anyways. But yeah, I could live with that. I'm more concerned about the left-hand turn lane off of Lone Hill heading east. As far as the signage goes, yeah, I mean, they're going to turn it into a truck stop almost. So I don't need the pylon sign on the freeway. I certainly don't need the sign on Lone Hill, and make that sign even bigger. I would relegate them to the one sign on Auto Center. And then the last thing I have is the notices that go out should encompass more than 500 feet, considering the size and magnitude of the building. You might only capture a handful of businesses. So I'd like to see it go at least to 1,000, if not 1,500 feet for input on that. That also might capture some of the residential that might be, that actually might be in the San Dimas heading east. But those are my comments.
Commissioner Matthews.
Sure, I'm not too far behind you guys. I think the orientation is okay. If it were turned perpendicular, I think we have more of a traffic issue. I'd like to see that the entrance or through path be from the south to the north for all the vehicles that come into that property in this orientation, because that gives a little bit longer queuing point to where everybody would come in together. So that might alleviate some of that traffic. I do think it's going to be a problem if they have the same level of customers coming through that they do over at the Sam's Club. I applaud more fuel stations. It seems like we're getting away from it somewhat, in spite of the effort to try to get it out of our cars. It's not going to go away. I'm okay with the signage. I think we can live with that. I think they've probably done as good a job as they can. And listen, part of their business is making it visible enough and readable enough that somebody can easily navigate into where they need. The only other question I had was to encourage them to include all fuel products, including diesel, in their offering if possible. And that might concludes my comment.
Thank you, Commissioner Matthews. Commissioner Koss.
Well, I share, it sounds like many of the same concerns as the other commissioners. I don't think it's possible to make an argument that that gas station is not going to overflow on Lone Hill. It happens at the other gas stations. I think that argument is not even logical. I have seen the earlier plans where the gas station was oriented in a perpendicular fashion, and I think that's much more, makes much more sense and doesn't impact Lone Hill nearly as much. You know, I'm not opposed to a gas station. I agree we need gas stations. Other service centers have them. I do have issues with the signs. The light up on the monument sign, I'm not wild about, but you can probably put plants in front of that. But the pylon sign and the light up numbers makes it look like a truck stop, and that's not our city. So I do have concerns about that. I'm also concerned about the kiosk itself. I know for a fact that Walmart is a scene of a lot of police calls for, you know, various reasons. And I could see customers coming into those coolers, grabbing something and just taking off. And so I'm kind of, although I guess that would be up to Walmart and your loss prevention, you know, department, how much of that you're going to deal with. But I'm concerned about that in terms of encouraging theft with that setup. But overall, I mean, I'm not opposed to a gas station. I just think that there's some serious design flaws with this one.
Thank you, Commissioner Goss. I have one more quick statement, I guess, too. If you go to the renderings in the packet, it's page 77 of 80, and I'm scrolling down on the website.
Joe, do you want to tell me which one that is? Because I have no clue.
It's page 4 of Walmart's packet. It's numbered 4 on their pages.
Are you talking about the elevations for the building?
Yeah, the colored elevations. It's just the building itself. It's just the kiosk. It's nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
You see where I'm at, Jacob? Okay, the back of the building, which is where the air conditioner, your compressors, and so forth. On that plan, it shows block. If you go down to the black and white, it says it's chain link with slats. That's going to fall apart, and we're going to see all the crap you guys are burying behind the store. I prefer it to be block, and there's gates so that customers aren't walking behind the building. I think that's just an architectural catch that was missed there.
Yeah.
So I think you got comments from us all. Do you have any answers, or do you have any comments back to us so we can address them as you see fit?
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. Yeah, and first I would like to thank Joseph and Mark for taking the time to make this recommendation that we meet in front of you guys. It was kind of their recommendation to have this walkthrough. Ultimately, we're going to be coming back to you guys for approval. So we want to make sure that we've met what you guys' needs are before we go too far down the design process. We actually, I've done a lot of work in the city of Glendora. I actually used to bunk there when I went to Cal Poly Pomona. So definitely Glendora has a good place in my heart with that. But as far as a couple of questions, I'll try to go through and address some of them. And if you guys have any responses, feel free to jump in. But as far as the rear portion, it will definitely be block. That is an architectural boo-boo. We do not plan on putting chain link back there. As far as the fuel products go, one of the Commissioner Matthews, I think you mentioned it, we will be selling all levels of gas, including diesel. So diesel will be involved. There might be some future proofing for electrical vehicles, but that's a topic that we'll cross on another later day. But diesel will definitely be provided. In terms of site security, Walmart does have, of course, their patrols that patrol the parking lot, and they will continue to maintain those. We do have cameras at the fuel stations that will be involved. We will also be working as part of the CUP process with police to make sure that we get their input. We are rolling this program out kind of across the state. Most people don't really look at Walmart and look at gas stations like they would look at a Costco or look at a Sam's or something. So Walmart, this kind of concept, while if you've gone to Texas or if you've gone to other states, You see Walmart gas stations all the time, but California, you primarily don't see them just because it does take a long time to get stuff entitled and get stuff into the to the jurisdiction. So in terms of the site security, the reason why I mentioned that is we do have a couple of these that have gone in. This won't be the first, so it'll probably be around the 12th. Hopefully by the time that this gets constructed. All the ones that have gone in are just hit or miss. Some are in the middle of nowhere and some of them are in downtown LA kind of thing next to some of our prominent stores. So what our intention is we would like to go ahead and leave the cases how they stand. There's an option that should there be a site security problem where someone comes up and there's a constant where people are stealing stuff and walking away, as one of the commissioners said, there's a way that we can lock the cases. And then ultimately, if you wanted something that was in one of those cases, you would walk up to the kiosk and say, hey, I want the soda, or I want the water bottle, or whatever it may be, or the smoothie or something. And then they'll be able to walk into the case and grab it for you and then hand it off to you. So right now, the intention is that it would be self-serving, and you would walk up and pay for it, but there's other options should this become a security/theft issue. As far as the parking stalls inside of the water quality basin, our intention is we try not to lose parking on site as much as possible. We know that parking is important. We do realize that we are over parked. We can surely eliminate those stalls because we'd still be satisfying the requirement. But our intention would be to try to leave those stalls on site, or provide those stalls, and then ultimately kind of regrade the water quality basin to allow to make sure that we have the full queue and the volume that was previously there. We talked about, I think it was funny when you guys mentioned the freeway sign down at Auto Center Drive. I remember there's that one single light that lights up that thing, and I never knew where it came from. It's always been there. I think that is a city controlled sign. I think someone had mentioned that earlier, whether we come to some type of agreement or gentleman's agreement. I think we're happy to have that discussion with Walmart. We're happy to have that discussion with the city further, but as far as we're aware, that sign is owned, maintained, and on city property and not on Walmart property. But we're definitely happy to re-explore that conversation again with Mark and his team. As far as the traffic issue goes, we have done we've run through with your guys' city traffic, a preliminary traffic study. So that would be kind of our initial traffic analysis. And so we've gone through and actually done traffic counts at all the intersections. And of course, when we come back and present the actual study to you guys will have a review traffic study. And as part of that, one of the major things that we've looked at is the intersection of Lone Hill and Auto Center, which for those of you that want to get into the whole nuts and bolts of traffic, it's currently operating at a level C, and it will be ultimately operating after future conditions at a level C. And that takes into consideration our fuel station as well as future projects that the city is constructing as part of that. So we've gone through and done that analysis. We didn't provide that analysis today just because it takes time to prepare and we didn't have time to put it together before this meeting. But we will have time to present that to you guys and get that reviewed by the city. And then I would say, I think the only other remaining thing is just the monument signs itself. Per the state requirement, we are selling 3 different types, or gas is kind of purchased 3 different ways at a Walmart fuel station. If you go to a Sam's Club fuel station, it's one price for everything because you get your discount price. If you go to a Costco, it's one price for everything. If you go to an Arco or a Chevron, maybe they have a credit card price and they have a cash price. How the Walmart will ultimately work is we have our standard Walmart price, which is your credit card or your cash or anything else. And then Walmart has a Walmart check, which is like the Walmart credit card, and then also has the Walmart Plus program, which if you're a member of the Walmart Plus program, you get benefits, but you also are able to get like the free 2-day shipping and all that other items. But as part of that, there are different levels that you can get in terms of your fuel reduction. So whether it's 5 cents for one or it's 10 cents for the other. So that's why if you saw that one sign where you saw 3 different fuel prices, that is a requirement that we are to provide. And of course, we'll work out the logistics of that with Mark and his team. But based on how we interpret the state guidelines on selling a fuel, we have to provide all 3 of those. So that's why there was 3 different fuel prices on that screen. We would love to, and we're happy to work with Mark and his team. We would love to try to keep or try to advertise the fuel at the monument sign at the corner of Lone Hill and Auto Center. That is a premier intersection, and we're at the intersection, and we like to add our signage at that intersection. Anybody that you're only gonna be able to see it from necessarily from people coming south down Lone Hill. And we want to make sure that we're trying to show them that there is gas inside that Walmart, because most people, again, don't really look at Walmart as selling gas. So we want to make them aware of that. And honestly, it's a tight site, especially with the light rail coming through. It's going to be overhead, and it's going to kind of block some of our view corridors and everything else. So we want to try to provide the best visibility possible, and some of these offsite signs will provide it. So that's why we kind of requested those 2 monument signs. And then I think we'd like to still try to explore the pylon sign, but I think there was kind of a unanimous decision on that. We'll try to come back with some different options on that and try to present them to you guys. And maybe we talk some offline with staff and figure something out. But just to give you a heads up, that's kind of where our head's at. And ultimately, you guys don't have a standard. So we wanted to try to present one, but we're happy to kind of go back and re-explore those options, as well as kind of the other fuel options. So I talked a lot. Hopefully I addressed some of your guys' comments and concerns. I've taken a good amount of notes. We look forward to bringing this project back to you guys. We look forward to getting under construction. We look forward to trying to present another fuel project inside your guys' beautiful city. Happy to answer any other questions should you guys have any. And again, just want to thank you to Mark and Joseph for recommending this, as well as for taking the time to kind of walk us through this process with you guys. So.
Okay, great. We appreciate your time.
I have a quick question for him.
Okay.
With the traffic studies that you come back to for us, since you've heard from us that circulation may be an issue, the orientation of the entire canopy and pumps, will we see a traffic study with both orientations, north-south and then east-west, for comparison for us?
Commissioner Davis, yes. Ultimately, and thank you, I forgot that was the one comment I made a checkbox next that I forgot to mention. As part of the city requirements, we are required to do a traffic study, which will address all the offsite concerns. As part of that, we will be doing a queue and a queue study, as well as a circulation study. Both those items will be addressed inside of that. Ideally, we would like the rotation as it stands today. I feel that from a traffic standpoint, it promotes people from crossing the main drive aisle when they leave. We all know people that our intention is to try to have people direct out that drive aisle and do all the striping behind there. But we know that one person that's going to be driving that big vehicle is going to cut everybody off and jump into that spot. And sometimes it creates a little bit of a headache. And so we would like to try to keep our canopy location and orientation how we have it. Should that necessarily be a concern with staff? I know staff has raised the concern. We haven't been able to provide them all the documentation. We will work with them, and we will try to keep our orientation as we have, as well as adding what was mentioned, some additional landscape breaks between our drive aisle and that canopy. But should it really come out to be an issue and that becomes a deal killer, we're happy to look at re-exploring our gas station. And I would say, if I could say one more thing, is our gas station is not intended. It's not, if you've been to a Sam's Club, if you've been to a Costco or anything else, we're not expecting the level of service that you get at one of those, because that's the super discounted fuel rates. We're looking at kind of competing with the Chevrons, the Arcos, the Shells, all of those gas stations of the world, with maybe a slight variance in price because we have a plus system versus something else. So that's ideally, we're not expecting the queues and the stacking that you would see at those other stations. And that's why we feel that we don't need to have that rotation and the orientation and the depth. But hopefully that answers a couple of your questions, but we will be happy to come back with some of that documentation for you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
And anybody else?
Jeff, I have maybe the applicant too, but this might be more for Jeff. Walmart is known for allowing overnight parking for RV camping type stuff. So, I'm not quite. I do see RVs there times that people have been there for a bit of a time, and I don't know if there's a city ordinance that doesn't allow it, or if the gas station is going to impact parking as much. I'm not certain I'd want that. And with the timeline, like starting construction. I'd hate for it to overlap with this gold line stuff.
Well, I guess one of the questions may be for, the regulating of camping in the Walmart parking lot.
Overnight parking type thing.
Overnight parking. It's private property. So there's nothing that prohibits someone from parking in a parking space, overnight.
Okay. And I guess my second question is when would they think about the timeline, when they might start construction, let's say?
That's a question for Walmart.
Thank you for unmuting me. As far as Walmart's timeline goes, Commissioner, we would like to be open tomorrow. We know realistically that we have to go through the city process and we have to go through our CEQA process as well as through you guys for approval as well as city council. But our goal is to be open ideally by the end of the year if possible. We would like to be there before the holiday rush. Should that not be feasible, then you might be talking to another applicant and Walmart might have substituted me for somebody else. But ideally we are open by the end of the year. That's the best. That's what we're shooting for. But should that change a little bit based on some CEQA policies, we'll cross that bridge. But
okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
Nope.
Staff, do you think you have a understanding of where we're at?
Yes, I do. I think we have enough, and we'll work with the Walmart team and come up with some site planning options, and we'll hopefully present them to you soon.
All right, fantastic. That'll move us to commission staff closing comments. Any staff have any comments?
I would just, are we going to move to receive and file the report and confirm that staff?
Sorry, yeah. Do you have a motion to receive and file this?
Yeah,
I'll
make a
move that.
motion.
I'll second.
Okay.
Sorry, who first motion?
Norwood first.
And that was Commissioner Cost second.
Yes.
Thank
We
you.
have a motion by Commissioner Norwood, seconded by Commissioner Cost. I'm going to conduct an oral roll call for receive and file the report. Commissioner Cost,
Yes.
Commissioner Matthews,
Yes.
Commissioner Norwood,
Yes.
Vice Chair Davis,
Yes.
Chair Kent.
Yes.
Motion carried 5-0. Thank you.
Okay, that'll move us to commission and staff closing comments. Staff, do you have any comments?
No comments.
No comments. Commissioners, Commissioner Kosh, do you have any final comments?
I don't. Thank you.
Commissioner Matthews,
I'm good to go.
Commissioner Norwood,
No, I do not. Thank you.
Vice Chair Davis.
I'd just like to thank everybody for one of the more lively discussions we've had on our commission in the last couple of years. That's all I have.
All right. I'm sorry, I missed. City Attorney, do you have anything?
I do not. Thank you.
Okay. With that said, we will adjourn this meeting at